How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Lunar, and in this video I would like to provide you all tips on how to win competitive matches in CSGO while solo queuing. With that being said, I would love to see in the comments how many of you mainly solo queue or just solo queue when your friends aren't on. I personally have picked up a lot of these tips from my solo queue to global series on my channel and have found these are things that can really change the game while solo queuing, and if you have any other provided tips you'd like to share, then feel free to share those in the comments as well, because they might help people out. But there are three main things I would like to cover, such as communication, utility usage, and playing as a team. The first and most important one is communication. I'm sure all of you have heard a million times over communication is key, but there is more that goes into this than just callouts. The most crucial communication, which does not happen all too often while solo queuing and matchmaking, is people communicating on what nades they have, or people asking for flashes, or people letting their teammate know they are going to peek an angle and want someone to peek the same angle with them. As an example, there are many times where people will dry peek an angle to take a gunfight and die when their teammate could have easily flashed them in and made the gunfight a lot easier and possibly save their teammate from dying. But because there wasn't any communication, it did not happen. I myself do this sometimes and forget to ask my teammates for a flash, or even to ask them to double peek an angle with me. This happens more so from what I've seen when retaking sites though. Have you ever been in a 2v, say 3 situation and you die and your teammate has full nades but doesn't use any of them, or your teammate doesn't peek with you? I'm sure this has happened to a lot of you, but this can easily be solved by asking your teammates what nades they have before going for a retake on a site, and communicating on when you're going to peek and if you want them to peek with you, or talking about where you or your teammate are going to use the utility you have left and when. Communicating like this, especially on retakes for sites, will help tremendously and can even make you and your team win more retakes, getting the man advantage even, or just getting good trades to win more rounds as a whole. The second thing though I would like to cover is utility usage. I know I touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but my biggest tip, and honestly mistake I commonly see people make, is they use all of their utility in the beginning of the round, or when they think people are rushing, or when someone is trying to get an entry onto the site. The biggest example I could use to better explain this is on CT side, when people tend to use all their utility to, quote, stop a rush, end quote. You know, this is not stopping a rush. It is just delaying it. Then when the actual rush happens, there is no needs to do damage or fully push people back, or even push people out of like the angles or spots that they're holding. Don't just blindly throw your utility, but also don't forget later in the round you have it. It's there. You could still use it. Always be thinking of how can you use these nades to really your advantage and the best situation that the nades could be used, like pushing someone out of a site or pushing someone off an angle with a Molotov or things like that. You know, think about maximizing the opportunity before you actually use the nade. You know, the third thing though I would like to cover is to play as a team as best as you can, and this kind of encompasses everything. The reason I say as best as you can though is because there will be the occasional person on your team that is always trying to do their own thing and constantly lurking, whether or not it's a good lurk. If you are able to play with your team, push with your team, set up crossfires when holding sites or a post plant, it will help tremendously, because it will maximize the rounds where your team is, not a man down. Even if you or your teammate gets the trade kill, you're still better off being a man down in that sense. But also planning executes with your team as best as possible can really help you win more rounds. This happens mainly on T side, obviously, because that's where you're going to be planning your executes, where everyone tries to do their own thing though. You know, they'll try to go get a pick, or, someone will say, oh, we should just work picks rather than trying to take a certain site. Well, trying to work picks is not always going to work, especially if everyone's doing their own thing. And most of the time, what happens is the teammate gets picked, or they get traded out after getting a kill, and you're back to square one. So if you're able to play with your teammates and be there when they're pushing a site, helping them clear out angles, it can not only help you take a site, but also be the main reason why you won the round. CSGO is a team-based game, so even if your teammates are having a bad game and you're still getting all the frags, it's still not going to help your team win the game. If your whole team dies on A site and you killed both players on B, now you're sitting in a 1v3 situation, that's not going to help your team. Now, of course, there are times times where that can work and you do win the game or win the round because of that, but it's not going to happen all of the time. So these are really things that I have implemented and started implementing into solo queue games, and that you could implement into solo queue games to definitely maximize the games you win. They're not guaranteed things that you're always going to win the game. The other team just might be better, but these aren't hard things to do. So if you have great communication, playing with and off your teammates, whether or not you're having a bad game, using your utility wisely and not just wasting it and throwing it willy-nilly, it can help in many situations. There are always going to be those games though where your team is having a bad game, and there are going to be games where, like I said, the other team is just playing better as a whole. But keeping a positive attitude and continuing with great communication, even though no one else is, it can possibly turn the game around. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know by leaving a like and subscribing for more CSGO videos. But if you have any video suggestions as well, leave them down in the comments. I'd love to hear them and make a video on that topic, especially if it's something you all would like to see. But my name is Lunar, and I'll catch you all in the next video.